Okay, so I've been thinking of being, carefully making some presentations and with presentation material and whatnot, and but also I just sort of also figured I would discuss the ideas that I want to go into. um, I think the first thing is that I want to avoid any use of the brainwashing technique part. I think the techniques that a teacher uses is what they teach you more than the results. I believe the means lead to means, and the way they teach you is what you learn more than the results. It's like, consider if you have a science teacher and he teaches you something, and then 10 years later everything he teaches you has been, shown to be incorrect. He made you learn things that now you know are not correct. Did you blame him? No, because you've learned the new things. Why? Because the way he taught you is the way you could keep learning. He knows the new things now. It's all fair because we're in this changing situation. So what we have as the, lesson zero in this is how these techniques work, why the military and occult brainwashing, what it means. It's a very simple pattern to see, but with a lot of complexity in terms of how it really works and why it's so powerful. It's like the difference of looking at the world and being in the world. It's like if you look at the technique, it seems simple and a helpless technique, and yet when you're in the middle of it, it's everything. Or being in a dream where it's like you don't afterwards you realize, hey, I didn't really feel like I had free. I thought I had free will, but I did this stuff. Anyway, I don't know if you know what I'm getting at, but the point is, okay, so they break you down, and you feel like nothing. You let go of your whatever, and then they give you a new one. Okay, well, here's the thing. This is the way people change naturally. Generally speaking, it's from one people find they have a dogma. The dogma has a lot of heuristics in it, that if you trust your priest, it'll be good. If you get up early and work hard, you'll become wealthy or whatever. Then you become disillusioned. Some of these heuristics fail. You become disillusioned, and they all fall apart. And the heuristics are glued together with other heuristics using the principles of philosophy that you then start to doubt. And like a domino effect or what have you, uh, it all begins to crumble, and you are getting less and less ideas, a smaller and smaller dogma, basically. And you begin to approach nihilism. It's a very dangerous state because, for one, you can't actually be nihilistic, but when you think you are, there's a weird kind of thinking that is possible when you think you believe in nothing, but you actually believe in certain things still. Um, and at some point, you get close to nothing, you see yourself as an empty field, and you discover something in life that you appreciate, and you rebuild uh, your own self in in the, I don't know, in honor of this thing in reality. Maybe in the shape of it, or maybe in the shape of a temple to it. And the issue is usually it's a new dogma. That's the thing. Usually it's a new dogma. And if all you really needed was a new dogma, maybe it'd be okay to brainwash you and tear one down, give you another. We just have to find which one was the right one, and then those would be the ends, and the means would be whatever. They would be justified. Um, but what I hope we do is we don't reinstall a dogma. Instead, we reinstall this method of introspection, a system where we continually evolve, and not by being dogmatic and then having a crisis of faith, and being dogmatic and having a crisis of faith for thousands and thousands of years, but to be dogmatic, have a crisis of faith, apply skepticism, not nihilism, rebuild a skeptical foundation, in which case you don't need to have a crisis. You have valves and pressure relief systems so that you can deal with the struggle of life, let's call it, without just ignoring it until it builds up to a crisis you can't ignore, and then overreacting. which is what people are basically doing and what this cult kind of approach teaches, and why people don't come out of cults better off there further back, and they might have been having a great crisis about to end up dead in the gutter, and that cult saved their life in that sense, but philosophically, they had to take a few steps back because they went through this crisis mentality in a way that made them dependent on crisis, dependent on crisis. The landmark methods, and from what I can gather, the EST methods that they all come from, you know, they're based on looking at everything as an emotional problem. It's just all an emotional problem, and basically, they don't give you techniques to deal with something until it becomes a crisis. And that's what they teach. And when you come in that crisis, you're going to use their techniques of beating other people down and attacking their self-confidence, trying to reconstruct them in the way that you want them to be, to fulfill the potential you imagine. Okay. So a proper skeptical way, we'll deconstruct ourselves. We'll blame ourselves. We'll find our own responsibilities. We'll look into problems, what they really are, in the sense in which they're immaterial. And but we are just throwing the pieces away. We are just dynamiting the pieces apart. That's up to you if you really have something you need to do that level. There's techniques for that. We aren't going to apply the technique to you. You ultimately, to benefit from real philosophy, you have to have the will to do it. Nobody can force you through it like that.